So, can you really coach yourself? Is that even possible? Well, it was interesting. This past week, I was actually at a live event down in Nashville, Tennessee, with one of my mentors, Mike Kim. And a lot of the speakers shared around the idea of mindset. And so today, I want to talk to you about mindset. Can you really coach yourself? That's the question. And we're going to talk about it today here on the Real Life Process podcast. Hello, everyone. My name is Teresa McCloy, and I'm your host of the podcast. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the podcast. We talk about all kinds of things about managing your life, from the real self-development piece to your needs, your values, writing your mission statement. What are the areas of your life you want to focus on? How you live that out in your everyday, ordinary, real life? And how do you show up as the best version of you in your real work? Those are the three areas that we talk about. We just recorded episode number 200 last week. And if you want to know more about what this podcast is going to focus on, what are our core values here at the Real Life Process, what am I going to show up each and every week and talk to you about? Do What Matters, Live from Rest, Not Rush. That's our brand new book that's hitting the market actually next Wednesday. We are so excited. If you're listening to this in real time, it's next Wednesday. If you're listening to it a couple weeks from now, it will already be out on the market, and you can find it at all of your favorite book retailers. Just check out the show notes and we'll give you links to that. In fact, if you're in the right time frame, you may be able to join us for all of our pre-order bonuses that we have going on. Just go to dowhatmattersbook.com and you'll see all those great bonuses. We have 4 live calls coming up that we'll be doing with those of you who pre-ordered the book or ordered the book within a certain time frame. And then we'll have a video, a documentary for you as well about how the book came together and how all of that transpired. And some other bonuses, a beautiful guidebook that was created by a friend of mine. And we will be putting that all together in some bonuses for you right here as the book comes to market. So check all that out. Dowhatmattersbook.com is where you can find all of those details about the book, or you can go to our website as well, which is thereallifeprocess.com. We spell real life with one L, REALIFE, reallifeprocess.com, and find out all the details and all the things. You can download some free things there as well. But now let's dive back into the topic of our conversation today. Can you coach yourself? We hear so much about coaching and a coach for this and a coach for that. As I just talked about it, I was at Mike Kim's event. I'm a part of one of his masterminds, and we bought all that together. If you're not familiar with Mike, we'll tag him here in the show notes as well. Mike wrote a great book called You Are the Brand about, branding your personal business. And so I've been a part of that for almost a year now. It's a great community. But as we were together live, many of the speakers were talking about something to do with mindset or something to do with, almost this idea of if we know the brain science of our brain and our mind, and we know that emotional connection, and we can connect those two in some way, then that will change our action or change our behavior. People come at it from different angles and from different ways, but I want to share with you kind of this idea of, can you coach yourself? I actually believe, in my mind, the answer is yes, but there's a yes, but on there. So I want you to hear the yes, but piece. But first, let's answer the question of, can you coach yourself? Yes, you can. And here at the Real Life Process, I actually have a formula of that self-coaching. We've done a couple of episodes about this, but I wanted to dive in here because it just came to mind so much last week as I was at this event and heard several of our speakers connecting these dots. Now, many of you know, if you've listened to the podcast for a while, that I am a huge believer in a tool called the Enneagram. And the Enneagram really, from a big framework, looks at 3 different kind of centers of intelligence. If you go back just a couple of episodes to, I think it would be episode 198, but don't quote me on that. We'll put it in the show notes. Marilyn Vansell and I have a great conversation about a new book that she has coming out because called Beyond the Enneagram. That new book really sheds light on the Enneagram in a new way through a tool that she has. And I highly recommend that you get that book. I highly recommend that you listen to that podcast interview I did with Marilyn, because these 3 centers of intelligence, the head, what we're thinking, the heart, what we're feeling, and the body, the gut intelligence, so head, heart, gut, really come together. Now, follow me with this, because remember, we're talking about, can you coach yourself? Those 3 pieces really come together to give us a lot of awareness of what's going on. What's going on in my head, my heart, and my gut. Marilyn takes it to a whole nother level that I think is where something like the Enneagram needs to go. The Enneagram is just a tool. It was huge for me in my awareness. I needed it at that season of my life. I needed it for the past 10 years or so. But just like anything, we grow and we evolve. And so Marilyn's new book really goes into that. And I reference that because of the tool that we have created, the tool that I've come up with to kind of dive into these 3 places that I believe God has put within us. These 3 centers are super important as we do this work of self-awareness, which can lead us to, quote, coaching ourselves. So let's answer the first part. Can you coach yourself? Yes. And then I'll get to the, but you might want to consider. So we have a tool that we call the Now tool. We'll reference some other podcasts about it in the show notes, but the Now tool is simply this. You might want to grab a piece of paper or your phone and take some notes here because it's really pretty simple. The Now tool is this: notice, that's the N, open to all 3 centers, that's the O, and then give a whole self response, that's the W. So NOW, notice, open, whole self response. Now, that sounds really simple, but let me kind of walk you through what that is. So notice is, what is the situation? What's the circumstance? What's the problem? What's the issue? Now, when I say notice, it could be something as simple as, I got a phone call in the middle of the day, and it really shifted for me something emotionally, something in how I reacted or didn't react. I just feel, sometimes the word is triggered, and it could be triggered in a positive way, and it could be triggered in a negative way. But something shifted in me. Or maybe something has happened deeper in a relational way with someone else, or in a situation or a problem. And I keep kind of ruminating on it. I keep kind of spinning on it. So I need to walk through a process. You know how much I love processes. That's what we've created with the book that I've written, and all the things I'm doing is a process to take you through. So this is a process. So maybe you're ruminating on something and you need to get it into a framework or a process to kind of flesh it out and to dive in deeper. So that's the first part, is to notice. What is it? Is it something very simple, or is it something that's been going on inside of you for a few days? And I need to put it through a framework. So that's the first thing. And then identify that. What is it? Give it a specific sentence. Maybe it's something very measurable. Maybe it's something, I got a phone call from blank, and then this is what happened. So usually a situation is something that will stand up in the court of law. It's a very factual. It's not your thought. It's what actually happened. He said or she said this. What do I notice about that? So that brings us to the second part, which is the O. And here we dive a little bit deeper. And you can see, you can just go through this framework, but now we're going to dive deeper. So when that happened, I felt this. So name the emotion. In fact, to help you name the emotion, here in the show notes, I'm going to attach my feelings chart, because we really need to name the feeling. I was sad when that happened. I was angry. I was happy. I was complacent. I was depressed. What is the feeling that you have when that happened? What did it cause you? I was tired. I was stressed. I was curious. I'm looking at my feelings chart. I was humiliated. I felt helpless. What is the feeling that you can give a name to? Not, I think I feel, but what is it? Or maybe the blank that you can fill in first in this opening part is what you're thinking. So we have three places we want to fill in here. We have the thought, we have the feeling, and we have the action or inaction. So when that happened, I did this. That's the action or inaction. You know, when I got that phone call, I checked out and I went to the refrigerator and I ate, a pound of cheese, or I made cookies and ate the whole batch, or I baked brownies, or I went shopping, or maybe it's something positive. When that happened, I did this. I was able to move to the next thing. I was able to have a positive conversation, because we want to identify and notice things that are both positive and negative. But many times we're working through something that is hard or difficult. So we want to fill in all three of these: our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And I call this a brain dump. We're just brain dumping around this situation, problem, issue, the thing that triggered us, the thing that shifted. We're just brain dumping. But by categorizing them into the framework, we can decide which of those thoughts we want to process first. So once you've brain dumped for just a little bit on your paper, you can start to say, which thought, because you'll have lots of thoughts around the same situation. What is the thought that I want to use? A thought is a collection of words in your mind. And those thoughts so many times are what drive our belief system. We create a thought that drives that belief. That thought will trigger an emotion. A good emotion or a bad emotion. So take a thought, then connect it to one of those emotions that you're feeling, and then see what happens. What's the behavior or lack of behavior that's an effect of that feeling or that thought? So now we've got the process, the framework. This happened. I thought this, I felt this emotionally, and I did this. Now I've got all the blanks filled in. I've connected all the dots. I've stepped outside of the situation, the issue, the problem a little bit, and I'm able to look at it on paper. And when you can do that, you can begin to shift and coach yourself into some other things. What's the thought I want to think about that situation? Going back to the phone call, right? Somebody calls you and they kind of dump something onto you or trigger you about something, or somebody sends you a text or an email and it triggers you into something. What if that thought could change to a different new thought? What if that became the thought of they weren't dumping their work on me, for example, or asking me to do something else? They really needed help. And when I changed that thought to they really needed help, now how do I feel? Instead of angry, maybe I feel compassionate. And when I feel compassionate around that thought, now maybe I act differently and I'm able to see how I could help them, how I could do it differently. So by changing the thought, my feeling can change and then my action can change. So you see that it is possible to coach yourself. It is possible to fill in all the blanks of the framework and coach yourself, as we say. But remember, I said there was a but to this. But I fully believe that having a coach walk you through. So I fully believe that having a coach walk you through this process is so helpful, because a coach can ask you some of the questions that are blocked for you. They can ask you, how do you feel about that? What are other thoughts that you're thinking? What else happens when that happens? So this is where partnering with a coach can be so helpful. The beauty of something like the Now tool that we have is you can show up for a coaching session. You can show up for a conversation and already have some of these things together. Here's what I want to talk about today. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm thinking. And let your coach help you walk through that. We love the Now tool. I've just given you an overview of it. This is a tool that we dive into and teach all of our certified facilitators to work with and to be able to show up with their clients, with those situations, things that you don't have control over, but they're very factual, help you work through what the thought is or thoughts that you're having about that. Take that one thought, connect the emotion, you look at the action or inaction, and then the W of the process is be able to get a whole self response. Now that I know all of this and I've connected all these dots from my head, from my heart, from my gut, I've stepped up on the balcony, I've looked at it. Now, how do I want to respond? Because once the thought shifts just a little bit, and we teach our facilitators and we work with our clients to know that you can't go from here to here. That's a whole nother conversation we can have. You can't just jump from this thought way over to this thought. Many times there's little, small, incremental thoughts in there. But it's guarding our heart and not losing heart and renewing day by day what our thoughts are. And moving our heart, moving that emotion to a new space, to a new place in small incremental steps. So maybe go back through and write down in your phone, on your notes, in a piece of paper, NOW. Notice, open up to all three centers, check in with the whole person, your whole self. Don't just respond from the emotion. Don't just respond from the thought. Don't just respond from your gut instinct, but check in with everything and then give a whole self response. So yes, you can coach yourself, but there's so much value in working with someone who will ask you good questions and walk through it with you as well. Not to solve it or fix it for you, but to walk with you in the journey of showing up in your best real life and being your best self. So if you're curious about that, you can check out our website. You can go check in with some of our facilitators, see if they are using the Now tool and say, hey, I want to walk through it. Or check in with me personally at Teresa@thereallifeprocess.com. That's my email. You can catch up with me there. These are some of the things that we're actually going to do in our bonus calls. We're going to talk more about the Now tool and some other tools we use like needs and values and a look through the lens of the Enneagram. These are some of our bonus calls that we will have, deeper dives into these things during the month of November 2022 when we're doing these bonus calls. And so go pre-order the book, dowhatmattersbook.com. Jump in, be a part of our pre-bonuses. Let's talk more about the Now tool. If you have questions about it, that's going to be a great place to show up, and we'll do some coaching. We'll do some things with these tools that we use here at the Real Life Process that our certified facilitators use as well. So join us over on our Real Life Process Facebook community as well. We have a lot of things going on there around the book launch. We'd love for you to join in. We can talk more about the Now tool. We can talk about the process, the whole entire real life process that we write about in the book. And so we're having a lot of fun over there. Come join us. And we can't wait to see you and all the things that we have going on. Introduce yourself, reach out to me, and remember that every ordinary day has an extraordinary moment. You just have to look for them. And we'll see you next week here at the Real Life Process podcast.